Good morning, everyone. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. One of those benders again where I've only just woken up and I feel like absolute shit despite the 10 hours sleep. That's, of course, not why you called. No. I want to talk about a couple of things. The first and foremost is what the government have put on their website as what is described as an extreme right-wing ideology. And what they're effectively now calling us, they're calling us terrorists. I wish I was making this shit up, but this is Keir the traitor Starmer's regime we're talking about, so it seems about as likely as me winning the next lottery, quite frankly. So, Keir the traitor Starmer and his regime have decided to put out some new guidelines on what constitutes being part of the far-right extreme wing ideologies. And one of the biggest ones that they put up there was being concerned about the replacement of Western culture with other ethnicities and what have you. Basically, they're saying that if you're concerned about mass immigration into this country and the replacement of our culture, you must be a right-wing terrorist. No. Just no. It seems like Keir the traitor Starmer still hasn't learned his lesson, has he? It's almost like he just loves to poke bears with a stick at this point. Now he's poking, well, at this point he's now poking the English lion, quite frankly. Well, now he better not be surprised if that lion comes swiping down with his claws and starts to rip his fucking throat out. Because at this point, that is effectively what he's doing with the indigenous population. He can't honestly expect people to take kindly to this. He can't honestly expect us to sit here and be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe we're a little bit wrong about talking about mass immigration and talking about certain ethnicities. No, it's not being a terrorist to say we're a little bit concerned about the mass migration. It is not called being a terrorist to be concerned with the fact that 84% of all grooming gang crimes are predominantly committed by Pakistani Muslim men. And I don't use the term British Pakistani, because obviously Pakistanis have to have come over here in the first place for them to start breeding with our own kin. So no, I am not going to use the term British Pakistani. I am just going to call them Pakistani Muslims. But they bought their 5th century, 7th century, whatever it is, because I've had somebody say apparently it's the 7th century, but it doesn't change the fact it's a medieval death cult, quite frankly. But it doesn't change the fact they've brought a medieval death cult to this country, exploiting our women and children, calling for jihad in our country, etc., etc. But Keir the traitor Starmer thinks we're the right-wing extremists, the terrorists, if you will, despite the fact the Muslims, the Islamic extremists, display the traits of far-right terrorism far more than any of us ever could. Think about it. What do they usually associate with the far right? Fascism is a prime example of that, even though you can be left or right-wing to be fascist. They consider people who preach white supremacy to be right-wing. Well, obviously they're not going to do it because most of them aren't white. There are some white people that are Islamic, but ironically they practice a different kind of supremacy, Islamic supremacy. So surely under their own bloody terms, surely they should be describing that lot over there, to use Richard Tice's words, as, well, extremists, extreme right-wing ideologies, etc., etc. Like, if they focus their efforts on Islam, then you know what? I'd have no problem with this shit. But the trouble is, he's painting all of us as right-wing. He is painting all of us as terrorists for being concerned, for being worried about what is going on in this country, how we are effectively being replaced by our government, by NATO, by the World Health Organization, or maybe I was right first time, with people that don't belong here. That's the first thing I want to get off my chest. I will come to the second thing I want to get off my chest in a moment, but I'll round it all off by saying we've seen this replacement coming for some time. Don't think that this has kind of been it's only just happening kind of thing. No, we've been being replaced. Ingalls is good, shush. But we've been replaced for at least 30 to 40 years with the clergy plan. How they have been constantly importing people from across the sea for the last 30 years or so, if not longer. How they've effectively tried to replace old Whitey with cheap labour, with people that have their death cults and what have you, and are completely intolerant of our Christian values. This is what Keir the traitor Starmer wants to support. He wants to support more of that. He wants to support more of these people coming along and replacing our lovely culture with their third world shitholes. Keir the traitor Starmer is as English as a French baguette. And he has all the intelligence of a dead squirrel. That man wouldn't know that this country is in danger, even if somebody presented the sheets in front of him and said, look, this is bad. But no, he doesn't want to listen to it. It just goes in one ear and out the other. Now, the second point I want to talk about is the Reform Party. Zia Yusuf. Or again, maybe I was right first time. The fact that this man, he had resigned, which I was going to mention, because obviously I thought that was a really, really good thing, only for him to literally hours later decide, you know what, I'm going back to Reform. Yeah, my seriously not amused face. But I digress. Zia Yusuf decided after Sarah Putin, I believe it was, decided to challenge Keir the traitor Starmer and decided to ask, I believe Zia Yusuf as well, would they be considering banning the burqa? Zia Yusuf didn't like that. He threw his toys out the pram. He was not a happy boy. He was not a happy Mohammed, was he? He decided to leave. But then, hours later, he decided to rejoin. But there's one person in particular that I think I need to speak out more than anyone else here, and that's June Slater. Because I've mentioned her a couple of times before on this channel. Sometimes I did admit I think I thought really well of her at first. I will admit that. But I think after what's been going on with all this civil war with Reform, I think it's become increasingly obvious that she has become, she's become obsessed, fanatical about Nigel al-Tharaji's Reform Party, or even better still, which I think Guardian Mo said, and I think it really does describe her perfectly, June Slater has become a smitten kitten. She has effectively become a woman that she used to stand for so much. Now it's more like she's just sitting there playing the drums of Reform. Yeah. And it's not a good thing, unfortunately, in my humble opinion. Like, I know how smart this woman is. I know she is. And she's got way more supporters than I probably ever will have, or probably ever want to have, to be honest. But here's the thing. You can't go out of your way and say that Reform are our only option, or that Zia Yusuf, he's a misunderstood man. No, he's not a misunderstood man. Zia Yusuf was running that party as chairman like a dictator. He actually put out malicious, false claims against Rupert Lowe about threatening his life. Now, whether or not Rupert Lowe has been over-exaggerating about reform or what have you over these last 2 or 3 months with some of the shit that's gone flying, and I'm surprised I don't see a drawing on the wall here. Anyway, the shit that's been thrown as of late over reform and Rupert Lowe, it really does beg the question, when the hell's it going to end? But what you have to understand is, whether Rupert Lowe is a plonker or not, there's one thing that you just don't do. And that is, you don't accuse someone falsely of something you know they haven't done. Mohammed Zia Yusuf decided it was a bright idea to try and destroy Rupert Lowe's entire reputation by saying he threatened his life. And then Nigel El-Faraji also echoed this as well, when they said that Rupert Lowe would cut the throat of the Reform Party, when that was never what he said. He had said what the Reform Party was doing was cutting the throat of the Reform Party. And nearly knocking the pan on the floor, fuck me. Maybe I should save that for another time. Anyway, the fact is, they made up false, malicious allegations against Rupert Lowe. And yet, June Slater seems to be of this mentality that these two people can do no wrong. She has completely fallen for them. Like, she's swooning over these two people, for fuck's sake, is the way I look at it. And I honestly thought she was a lot smarter than that, quite frankly. I thought she was a lot smarter than to accept the bullshit of these two clear backstabbers in the Reform Party. I accept not everyone in the Reform Party is a complete arsehole. Not everybody in the Reform Party is completely brain dead or has less brains than a dead squirrel. I do accept that. However, these two are the leaders, or one of them was, the leader of the Reform Party. You can't expect people to take kindly to Nigel El-Faraji or Rupert Lowe or Mohammed Zia Yusuf when they're going out of their way to try and literally destroy Rupert Lowe. You can't expect somebody to be perfectly okay to sit there and hammer a nail into the coffin of reform by doing this shit. I mean, I wasn't happy when he slandered Tommy Robinson, let alone the malicious shit that they did with Rupert Lowe. Like, that's the way I see it. And as I said, June Slater, she can see, hear and speak no evil as far as reform is concerned. And I think I'm going to address her directly here. You fucking need to wake up, bluntly speaking. You probably won't like the way I say that. You probably won't like the fact that I'm saying it to you, period. You're probably not going to like the fact that I'm putting the facts out there about Nigel El-Faraji. Sorry, Nigel Farage for you. And of course, Zia Yusuf. But here's the cold, bitter truth. I don't think I'd want to back two people that effectively want to stab their allies in the back, as well as their core voters in the back. Because that's what you've got to remember, June. I accept devil's advocate. I accept that Nigel sometimes has to play the part of he has to distance himself from the supposed far right, because the mainstream media will chew him up and eat him alive. I do accept that. However, Nick Tenconi decided he was going to side with Tommy Robinson's supporters. Has he been destroyed? No. He's going. He just keeps on trucking. He is like an unstoppable juggernaut. The only thing he needs right now is more voters, more supporters, and my fucking membership card. God fucking damn it. But in all seriousness, if there was more people under Nick Tenconi's party, he would take over and destroy reform. Just like that. It all comes down to this mentality of pigeon-holing one into a tunnel, I guess. You're tunnel visioning yourself and thinking, well, if we don't vote Reform, it's a vote for Labour, was one of the main arguments you keep seeing with this shit. You keep seeing all the doomsayers of Reform that are coming out saying, oh, Reform's our only hope. If you vote for anyone else, it's a vote for Labour. Well, that was not what Lee Anderson said, was it? Lee Anderson, if you recall correctly, in a secret recording for the 2024 general election, he actually said, and I quote, a vote for Reform is a vote for Labour. End quote. But of course, the mainstream media won't tell you this. You know the drill, folks, because say it with me. It doesn't suit the narrative. So it really does beg the question, doesn't it? Is it really a vote for anyone other than Reform is a vote for Labour? Or is that just something they want to parrot and just twist the words so that they can make Reform look like a god-tier party? Begs the question, doesn't it? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I said before that I would never vote Reform again. The only way I'd ever vote for Reform again is if it was... basically, it's the nuclear option for me. It's the red button's right there, and I have no choice. That's the only way I'd ever vote for Reform, quite frankly. If I have to do it in order to make sure that Labour doesn't get in power, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm voting UKIP all the way. I know people will be sitting there drilling out their comments and wanting to put one in my head and say, but you can't. Nick Tanconi doesn't have a chance. Nick this, that and the other. Reform's our only hope. Blah, blah, blah. And just constantly doomsaying and just basically not giving other people a chance. I guarantee you, Nick Tanconi has a chance. You just got to believe it. And if you don't believe it, if we don't believe in ourselves, how do we expect other people to? Ask yourselves that. Do not be fooled by June Slater. Do not be fooled by all the doomsayers. Do not be fooled by all the people who are parroting the same rhetoric of, oh, they're our only hope. That's only the people who want to pigeonhole themselves, who tunnel vision that one party, who think there's no other party suitable for us. I guarantee you there are other parties suitable for us, and UKIP is one of them. UKIP is one of the parties that has stood by its principles the entire time, whereas Nigel El-Tharaji changes his principles at a moment's notice. Think about how he acted when the original idea of mass deportations came into play. He chucked that plan straight out the window. Then, come the election day, or the council election, local elections, you know what I mean. Come those elections, all of a sudden, he's dragging it back out and saying, we will mass deport. He only did that because he knew full well that would secure him the votes. He knew full well that that would be the only way people would truly believe in Nigel Farage. That's the thing. He only changed those principles to secure more votes. Simple as that. If it weren't for that, I reckon he would have lost a considerable number of votes. Just like that. You can't fool us. Those who are clued into this shit, you are not fooling. Nigel doesn't believe in mass deportations. He openly attacked people, effectively, for basically sending stuff to Zia Yusuf, calling it racism. Even though he's smart enough to realise that Islam is a religion and not a race. This is the thing. A lot of these people who are die-hard fans who can see, hear or speak no evil about reform, as I've said, I've taken to calling them reformians because they are basically, at this point, I am willing to go as far as saying this, mindless drones that will parrot the message of reform without even looking outside the box, without looking at everything else that's around them and coming to their own informed decisions. That's the thing. I didn't go out of my way to say, oh, fuck reform, because I was brainwashed by the mainstream media, or Tommy Robinson, or Paul Thorpe, or Richard Inman, or whoever. I came to my own fucking decision on that shit. I looked at what was going on. I saw how Nigel El-Tharaji was treating his core voters at the time, because Tommy Robinson, bear in mind, he told all of us, go out and vote reform. And then this is how we got repaid. We basically got repaid with a knife in the back. After that, I immediately came to my own decision of, well, if you're going to stab us in the back, you don't deserve my fucking vote. We have to aim higher. We have to set our standards higher. And don't accept shit as an acceptable standard. We need to be able to see the wood from the trees. And unfortunately, some good minds, like June Slater, are unable to do that anymore. Because she is the smitten kitten. She is the person that is banging the drums of reform. I'd love for her to prove me wrong. I'd love for her to say to me, well, that's not true, young man, and you need to basically clue yourself in a bit more. I would love for her to come along and say, you know what, you've got this wrong, and actually prove that I've got it wrong, quite frankly. Nothing would please me more. But the cold, bitter truth is, she has not once spoke negatively about the Reform Party. Not once. She has not once called out any of the reprehensible behaviour from some of the Reform Party members. Well, unlike her, I will call it out. Just like if there was any people in our group who decided to fucking, I don't know, go and bash in the doors of a mosque or something, or decided to ram a car into people or whatever, I would call it out instantly. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're white, black, green, yellow, purple, silver, blue, or whatever, or whether you're a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, or just an atheist or an agnostic, or whatever. Anyone who does that is scum, in my eyes. Just to use that as an example. We need to be able to, as I said, see the wood from the trees. We need to call this out when we see it. The bottom line is reform are not as innocent as a lot of these reformians and June Slater would make you believe they are. They have done a lot of shit that I think a lot of us can agree is quite abhorrent. They were willing to stab Tommy Robinson's supporters in the back. They were willing to stab their friends in the back. They were even willing to stab one of their own 5 MPs in the back. So it begs the question, would you want to support a party that is known for backstabbing? Would you want to support a party that is known for spreading libelous slander? Would you willingly support a party who Lee Anderson even said in 2024, a vote for reform is a vote for Labour? I know I wouldn't. And it's not for me to come off as pretentious, because I leave that decision to you. Do your own research. Come to your own decisions. Don't let me influence them. And as far as Zia Yusuf is concerned, it's going to be very hard for people to believe you, bud. Very, very hard to believe you. Because you were willing to run that party like a dictator. You slandered Rupert Lowe. You conveniently came in with this fuckload of cash and just threw it practically on Reform's desk and be given a chairman's seat when most people would have to work pretty damn hard for that shit, I would say. and then you throw a hissy fit and then come back hours later. Like you were a spoiled brat that realised how wrong they were and they're like, oops, I made a little fucky wucky. Yeah, you're not fooling anyone with that shit, Zia Yusuf. It's really hard because getting them mixed up, because that's what's screaming right now, the Zia Yusuf and Rupert Lowe kind of thing, and it's getting me to nearly say Rupert fucking Lowe, quite frankly. And as far as June's concerned, you really need to wake up. I'll tell you what, come over to mine, I'll fix you up a nice cup of coffee, I'll clue you in on some situations, and then you can understand why reform is not the answer to this country. The answer is UKIP. That's the thing. You can't side with backstabbers for long, because what happens is before long, they'll run out of people to backstab, and they'll come and backstab you instead. That's the cold bitter truth, June. Don't parrot the same tunnel vision rhetoric. I will wake you up, if necessary, with a nice cup of coffee, and I'd like to think I do a good one, I think. But I'd love to wake you up, I'd like to wake the Reformians up, and I'd like to wake up anyone who is considering voting reform. Because, as I said, we should aim higher. I wouldn't trust a backstabber with my money. I wouldn't trust a backstabber with my back. So why would we trust reform for all the dishonesties they have committed?